Okay, cool. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm actually filling in for Rochelle today. My name is Shannon. I'm the operations manager for Best Choice. And tonight we have Sam Sentioli from Movement Mortgage. And we're just going to have an open kind of dialogue conversation tonight to go over some of the financing blunders that are going on out there. We've got a lot of deals that I think more so recently than we've had in the past. It could just because of the marketplace, but we're having more deals that are on the rocks for some of the silly things, really. So I'm going to have Sam go over some things there. And then I've got a couple little takeaways, key takeaways from a real estate perspective of some things that you can keep in mind to keep some deals together from the outset. But Sam, I'm going to let you kind of take the lead here. And then I'll certainly ask you some questions. If you guys want to pepper them in, we've got about 30 minutes and feel free to unmute your line and ask questions directly. I mean, that's always great. You can get some instant feedback there, or post them there in the chat and I'm happy to read them for you to Sam and pose them that way as well. So Sam, so what's going on in the markets? Like the lenders are kind of leading the way this month, it seems like. So what's going on in your world as you see it?
So, hello, everybody. I mean, just within my experience, I work on a team with three people, with Ted Buchanan and Paul Bloom. And, last year we were closing 20 to 30 loans a month. And this year it's, 10 to 15. So a good amount of touches. What we're seeing right now, and I think probably I'm hearing this from a lot of people, is there's more, like when you hit the end of a boom, that's when a lot of borrowers who didn't think they could qualify will come out and look. And it's also when there's lots of sellers who were maybe waiting to get their house fixed up to get it on the market, and now they're seeing the market tank and they're like, well, we just got to get our house on the market and the house isn't quite ready. So you're seeing a lot of kind of unprepared borrowers. I wouldn't say unqualified, I would just say unprepared. We get a lot of borrowers who, I'm ready to get a loan, and okay, we have a conversation, we send them the link to fill out the application, and it can be as quick as give me these 4 things, and within a half day to a day, they're fully underwritten and approved. Where you're seeing a lot of, well, I don't have those W-2s. Well, I forgot to tell you, I had a bankruptcy 3 years ago. Oh, well, I switched jobs. And it's just the market. It's not, it's part of the job, but we're seeing a lot more of that. And then when you mix that with, there's probably more than average, there's more listings on the market that maybe aren't where they should be because the sellers are panicking. They want to sell before the prices drop. So you're seeing more issues with inspections. You're seeing a little bit more appraisal conditions for things, little things. I mean, we aren't having any fallout on our end. So, I mean, one of the questions you asked me to prepare for is, what can we do to keep deals from falling through and going sideways? And this sounds a little bit self-serving, but the actual answer is, have them fully underwritten by an experienced lender beforehand. We really push people up front to get everything. We front load the process because every hour you spend up front saves a day, down the road. We don't have deals go sideways outside of there's curveballs. You're gonna have appraisals that come in. You're going to have maybe title issues that pop up, or you could have a borrower who just had an omission of fact. They didn't tell you about something either intentionally or they forgot, that kind of comes up in the process. But outside of those 3 things, there really shouldn't be deals going sideways. And again, it can happen, and I don't want to criticize any other lender or anything, but it usually happens with a bigger bank or with a less experienced loan officer. One of the, we're still getting, not a lot, but we're still getting purchases where the house does not have a carbon monoxide detector and the hot water tank double strap. That's a big no-no. just make sure that's done. I mean, this has been a rule for like 15 years now. So we should never be seeing that. And it's not a huge deal because we can do a lender cert, but it's just something that it shouldn't be done. And then with condos, the more information you can get us with a good contact, the better. Because sometimes, we'll look up online or we'll look up the condo association and our condo team will send an email out and it'll bounce back and, we can lose some time. So if you can get a good contact for the HOA person who can answer all the questions and get the questionnaire and all the paperwork, that can save a little bit of time. Outside of that, it's just mentally getting used to this different market. I mean, the last 2 years has been I would say very transactional, very quick. You want to list your house, okay, sign here. We're going to get, we'll take an offer on Tuesday, and borrowers, get your offer in. You don't have time to look at it. And now it's getting back to where it was, where real estate needs to be more relational. You need to, there's probably, if there's new agents on this call, if you've been less than 2 years in the business, some of you've probably never done an open house. You've never had to do any kind of farming or it's just the market was just so fast, and we're back, and you kind of forget how the market was. You have inspection problems. I mean, in the last 2 years, we haven't had that because nobody did inspections. So there's all those, the market's getting balanced, which is better for borrowers. But it also creates these, I don't know, I'll call them issues that have been in the industry forever. So you just have to remember, it's getting back to normal, I feel like. Is that, and it's
Yeah,
just,
no, I think that that's a great start. And I think some people forget too that, for the last 2 years, it was hard for us to have situations when everybody's waiting everything in certain circumstances. There's literally no way out of the deal other than to close. We're kind of more back into a balanced market where, 1 out of 5 deals are at risk of not closing, whether that's financing, inspection, buyers or more, sellers or more. I mean, 1 out of 5 is the statistic. So, when you put together a deal, that's why we have real estate agents to guide our clients and our consumers, is because of that 1 out of 5. It's nice when deals go smooth, but when they get rocky, that's where we're more important than ever to keep everybody focused and on the deal and on track. I think just to echo one of your points that you had, Sam, it's like the quirky properties are coming out, right? It's like stuff that didn't sell a couple of years ago, or people didn't want to sell a couple of years ago. We're seeing more quirky kind of properties, not cookie cutter. They're not simple. I think just in the last 30 days, we've had more questions about manufactured homes, for instance, than we've had in months. And part of it is because of affordability, but it's just, these are properties that maybe haven't had their title eliminated. It's just quirky stuff that kind of crops up. And I think from a lending perspective, as a real estate agent, I think it's important to know, if someone's pre-approved, to Sam's point, make sure that they're underwritten and you understand what their affordability is and what they can do in different scenarios. We had an agent that was working with a client where they were pre-approved for about $400,000. And so agent goes out and shows homes, which is great, shows homes under the $400,000 price point. Well, what ends up turning up is that the properties that they were looking at were manufactured homes. And the way that their loan would have been structured is that their affordability for a manufactured home is actually $370,000, not $400,000, based off of their different criteria. I mean, we don't need to go into it, but it's important to know and talk with your lender and have a really good relationship with that lender, because that can affect, you end up not wasting as much time going out showing homes for properties that people cannot afford. So I think that I will echo that, Sam. It's like the quirkier properties are out and the quirkier buyers are out, and having greater understanding as to their buying power will be very, very important. What are you seeing? So in terms of when Sam's one of our resident rescue loan lenders, where if you do have a situation where someone is failing on financing or whatever, Sam has been able to save a couple deals in those regards. So Sam, do you mind kind of sharing a couple some of your kind of favorite stories, I suppose, in that regard, where maybe a typical bank wouldn't close it, but you were able to kind of pick it up and save it in a way?
Yeah, it's always different, but it goes into two categories. One is the lender misinterpreted a guideline and it caught them at the very end. And I'm trying to think of a specific example. And we've had luck with either, so underwriting, I mean, Fannie and Freddie, they have universal guidelines that every lender has to follow. And then some lenders have overlays where they actually go stricter than that if they want to. And then there are, I don't know, maybe a couple dozen guidelines that are kind of gray. They're open to interpretation because, there's so many scenarios. You can't have a black and white. So there are things that lender A, B, and C would not do, but lender D, E, and F would do because the underwriter and or their manager is interpreting it a way that allows us to do it. So sometimes we've had good luck with that. Movement does a good job with follow the guidelines. Every loan is submitted to Fannie Mae. You get it's called a DU, desktop underwriter. And you underwrite to those findings. We don't ask for anything more than what those findings say. And you can do a lot with that. And the other reason why we see things going sideways is just like they didn't calculate the income properly. And there's usually, I mean, again, my team, the three of us have got 90 years experience. So we get really creative. There's usually a way to restructure some debt or restructure the loan program or do, if it's anywhere close, I would, and sometimes we just can't do it. But I would say that 3 out of 5 rescues that come our way, we're able to kind of rescue it one way or another. And sometimes the answer is, listen, you just didn't do this right. Try this, instead of us taking the loan and starting over, it's kind of coaching the other lender. And if they can close in 3 days by, using this little loophole, it's better for everybody. Not for me necessarily, but if it's better for the borrower, it's better for everybody. So there are times when we are coaching the borrower or the other loan officer on what to do, and they go off and they get it closed. So, but it's not really a lot that you can kind of bird dog and know about. Usually these are fairly kind of obscure things or open to interpretation type things. I mean, the one thing that kind of frustrates me with this industry is there's no universal specific rule for what a pre-approval is. You could have a lender that could talk to somebody on the phone for 5 minutes and they could send you a pre-approval letter, it's not a pre-approval letter, but there's no rule that say they can't do that. So sorry for people that are experiencing this is kind of basic, but there's 3 different levels. That's a pre-qual letter. If you talk to somebody on the phone and you ask them questions about income and debt, it sounds like it fits. They've just been pre-qualified. No credit's been pulled. That's a pre-qual letter. It's better than nothing, but somewhat useless. The next level is an automated pre-approval where they make application, we pull credit, we run it through Fannie Mae's underwriting, and it issues an approval. That's an automated approval or a pre-approval. And the next level is a fully underwritten approval where everything is submitted to the underwriter, the person who's actually licensed to approve the whole loan, and they look at it and they approve it. That's an actual underwritten pre-approval. We don't do pre-quals. Movement has, it's called an LO approval, which is the automated approval, and then it has an underwriting approval. So Make sure when you're talking to your lender that you're getting clarification on what they mean when they say they're approved, because sometimes it doesn't matter if they're W-2 and have great credit and putting 40% down. But if there's anything self-employed or any variable income or low credit, you want them to be underwritten, fully underwritten before. And we can do that. Right now the volume's low enough that we're doing that in less than 24 hours in most cases, once we have a full file. But that's one thing you can do to not have problems is to take this letter and assume that they've been fully underwritten when it's the only thing that's happened is they talked to the LO.
Yeah, and I think too, from at least some blunders that we've seen from a brokerage standpoint, as a listing agent, things that you can control. Some of the things that we see that maybe we're not necessarily at fault for doing this, but some of the other agents may have out in the industry. But supplying that Form 17 to everybody, a party to the transaction. That Form 17 is really intended between buyer and seller. It's not something that really should go to the lender. It shouldn't go to the underwriter. It's something between buyer and seller. So what I can tell you from experience is when you're assembling the package that you're sending for mutual acceptance, try and be diligent about separating the Form 17 disclosures from your initial purchase and sale package. Because what ends up happening is, and this happens for Form 17 as well as the full inspection report from the inspection response too, is if that thing hits the underwriter's desk, it can be a problem. So, and I'm sure Sam would echo this too, because then they start seeing things that are on the inspection report. Maybe the roof isn't necessarily in the greatest condition, or maybe, we had one where there was literally like a hairline crack. And it came out, and the way that the picture made it look a lot bigger than what it was. It made it look like it was a foundational issue. Well, if you actually looked at the inspection report and read it clearly or saw the notes from the buyer's not concerned about it. The inspector said it wasn't really a big concern, but they do their little CYA to say, you should probably consult with a foundation expert if you're concerned. But underwriters don't look at it that way. And they're always looking out for the best interests of the client, the consumer, and for the loan. So be careful, I suppose, when you're sending emails, try to slow down. I know it's busy and we've been used to the last couple of years of going so quickly, but from some of the deals that have been rocky in the last couple of months, some of those things are things that will crop up, and it can be very scary when you have one of those deals that's supposed to close, and it could have been resolved by just being a little bit more careful about what you're sending to whom. You've seen that too, Sam, at some point, right? Where it's like, gosh, dang it. Like, why did you send that to me?
I usually take them out. Sometimes I'll read through them, and if it's all clean, I'll leave it in, but I will usually, and I guess most of you probably know this, but this could be a nice tip. I didn't know it for years. If you have a PDF and you want to change it, go to print, and then when you hit print, there'll be normally your printer drop down, and there's a print to PDF option, and you click on that, and then like if it's 1 to 30 pages and you want to drop the last 20, you put in 1 to 20 and you hit print, and it just creates a brand new PDF. So you don't have to reprint it and take stuff out, or it's a nice way to alter a PDF without having to print or do a bunch of, and most of you probably know that, but if you don't, I just saved you a lot of time.
Yeah. And it just removed those 6 pages. I mean, that's all we really need to do with those Form 17s, and it will save you a lot of headache later down the road. So some of the other things too that, I will echo Sam in the unprepared borrowers thing. If you have not considered getting your borrower double apped, and if they're especially with one of the bigger banks, you might consider apping them with another real estate specific lender like Sam, where they can basically have several options. You have that in the financing addendum, you have that shopping clause. So if for some reason the rates are not good or whatever reason, they can basically pick the loan officer within those 5 days. And it just makes it a lot stronger when you're trying to present your offer. But then it also is helpful for if down the road you start having issues with financing, you have another lender that you can rely on where they may have already made application with. And it makes it a lot easier to negotiate extensions and things like that when you have that borrower that's double apt, especially when you've got those self-employed clients, right, Sam?
Yeah, it gets exponentially more complicated with self-employed borrowers,
Yeah.
but you can do it.
And I think too, to help Sam out, help us as a brokerage out, as a listing agent, we have a lot of listings that are out there in the industry right now. And I think people have forgotten, tee it up as much as you can for that appraiser. Attend the appraisal inspection. You don't necessarily need to attend the closing. You don't need to attend these different things, but do yourself a favor and attend the appraiser with the appraiser when they appraise the house. First of all, you'll learn something. You always ask questions, what are you doing for price per square foot in this area? So then it will help you with if you do other appraisals in that neighborhood. But then it also helps you. So you say, oh, what are you kind of turning up for your property? You just ask questions, of the appraiser. And sometimes if they're having issues with valuation, you can help them and say, hey, did you see the house down the street? I already called, this is what they got. Some appraisers, not all appraisers are created alike. And so making sure that you've got a good appraiser that's appraising your house will be important when you're working with a balanced market like we are now. So keep that in mind. I know Candace, you put together like a whole package for your appraisers, right? I don't know if she's muted or not, but if she can, that would be kind of cool to share what she does for that. And I think some of the other things too that people are finding with deals that are falling apart are not taking into consideration moving plans. I think Candace and I were talking about this earlier today, where there are twice as many occupied properties out there right now. And so maybe it's not price, you guys, maybe it's not the condition of the home. Sometimes it's moving plans that are the most stressful and important for sellers and buyers. I know we had one over the weekend where they're concerned about it's a home sale contingency. And so when you have home sale contingencies, which is becoming very, very common right now, what are you doing and where do the dominoes place? Where are the moving trucks involved? And when do the funds need to arrive? Lenders need to know that so that they know when to perform. And so making sure that you ask a lot of questions when you're presenting an offer as a buyer, and also being upfront when you're representing the seller about the moving plans. We're going to see a lot more of this, I think, over the next couple of weeks, just because we have a lot more home sale contingencies that are happening. So keep that in mind, ask questions, when do the sellers need to be out? What are their plans for moving? Do they have trucks planned? Are they doing a pod? What are their plans for moving into the house? And same thing with buyers, are they renting months a month? Are they selling their own house? We've been in a situation before where a buyer didn't disclose that they were doing a home sale contingency and made it look like their offer was cash, but it was contingent on them receiving funds from the home sale. So make sure you ask lots of questions when you have that buyer's agent and that listing agent working together initially. Have you seen much of that too, Sam? The home sale contingencies affecting anything, at least in your world recently?
Well, in the last 2 years, we never had one for 2 years until about 2 months ago, and now we are seeing them. And they're like they've always been. I would say 4 out of 5 times it works out fine, but that one time they don't sell in time and the deal falls through. But they are being accepted now. Like I said, we're seeing them for the first time in a long time.
I know they're cropping up. So if you guys have questions about home sale contingencies, make sure that you've talked to us before you use one, especially one where the home has not gone on the market yet. If they're trying to leverage their equity, you will want to call Candace, you will want to call me or Rochelle to make sure that the timelines will work. Because there's extra things to keep in mind when you have a home sale contingency, especially one that has not gone on the market yet. So keep that in mind. Let's see, Sam, did you have any other, let's see if I had anything in the chat. I think Peroska, you had a question, did you not? Let's see.
Question.
Okay.
Go for
Can I
it.
talk?
Yeah,
Can I
go
talk?
for it. Go for it,
So
Peroska.
I would have a question to Sam and for you guys. What does that mean, fully underwritten approval? Because I might have a buyer, but the husband is not approved yet because he's waiting for the paper. And because of this COVID, everything is delayed. And that's the case. And with my understanding, that's fully underwritten approval needs to be done.
So if I understood correctly, if you're not able to meet the financing timeline because of COVID delays, is that the question?
No. So the partner cannot be approved yet for the loan, but she works at a hospital or a laboratory, but she can approve. She got approved 100 something, but they waiting for the husband get approved. So in this case, what we can do?
Yeah, if they're borrower co-borrower, you can't finish it until both finish. I mean, you can get one of them done and have it just sit there and all ready. And but yeah, and that happens a lot. Sometimes we'll have 3 or 4 borrowers on one loan, and it goes as fast as the slowest person, basically.
So just let's do approval for her and wait for the husband until he can get approved.
If she can get approved for what you need on her own, you don't have to have his information. But if you need him to qualify, if you need his income, then you have to just wait. You have to keep politely pushing the other person. But you don't have to have both people on a loan if you don't need both to qualify, husband and wife. So with FHA, if they're married, you have to qualify with both spouses' debt. With conventional, you don't have to use it at all. If you can be married and one spouse can have $1 million in debt and bankruptcies, and the other spouse can qualify on their own without looking at or caring about their credit.
Cool. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. I will contact you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. And I think, Ben, you had a question too. Did you not? Go for it.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Sam. I had this question. You made that point earlier. Had this loan officer talk with my buyer, and situation is she's a single parent, got 2 jobs, so her income's okay, and credit's okay, but the loan officer thinks she's got too many loans that we need to pay some of that, and that's where we are. We've been waiting for her to pay some of the loan. If I tell you something like that, Sam, would you say the same thing right up, or would you like to really talk to the buyer and say that there's something else can be done? Or why should I go to another loan officer that might be different from what this loan officer I'm talking to say? Something like that.
You have what you need, and or can you repeat that, the last part?
Well, what I'm saying, the situation is that my buyer income is okay according to the loan officer. The credit score is okay, but thing that has too many loans, and the monthly mortgage she might not be able to do it, and so the loan officer suggestion is to pay some of the debt, and that's where we are. We're waiting, and but according to what I heard from you, that why don't we try another mortgage loan officer? Something else could be done, or would you say the same thing if you hear that situation?
Okay, so yeah, they've got too much debt. You're waiting for them to pay off debt, and is it worth getting a second opinion? That answer is it kind of depends. I mean, again, if it's a experienced loan officer at a good company, they're probably getting good advice. But if it's somebody who's in a rush or somebody newer, it wouldn't hurt. I mean, it's never a bad idea just to get a second opinion. And I wouldn't necessarily re-pull their credit if they can get me a summary of their debt or a copy of the report. But not all loan officers are created equally. I mean, there are some very creative loan officers that will look at, well, you know what, if you've got $15,000 in room on this credit card and these payments are super high, can you see if you can roll those into this credit card? Or, you know, there's all sorts of options. You know, if he's waiting to get his paycheck to pay something off, well, can you get a gift right now to pay it off and work that out later? There's unlimited little scenarios, and usually ideally you're going to get the same answer from the same lender. That would be nice, but it's not always the case. So the short answer is it depends, and it doesn't hurt. You wouldn't really want to have the credit pulled again, because it creates more letters, and it shouldn't lower their score, but it can. But just having someone kind of look at their scenario just with fresh eyes is not a bad thing. And mortgage is slow compared to the last 2 years. So everyone's got time to take a look at this kind of stuff, and they're happy to do it.
Yeah, sort of a second opinion. Thank you. Then, because I always have this idea that if this loan officer A told me this, well, loan officer B will say the same thing. So I won't bother. But thank you. Then it's worth trying. Then I'll do that next time. Maybe on this buyer, I'll try to do that. Maybe I'll call you, Sam.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Perfect. Cool. So I think that's all we had for tonight. So thank you so much for joining us all. And thank you, Sam, for taking a minute. And if you don't mind, Sam, if you can put your contact information in the chat so people can snag
sure.
it real quick, that would be great. But yeah, hopefully you guys are working on deals this weekend. This is like probably the busiest Monday we've had in a couple of weeks. So this is great. You guys must be busy out there. Inventory is doing well. It's a great time to buy. It's a great time to sell. If you have questions about messaging and what to say to your clients, let us know. We're happy to set up a one-on-one. I know Candace always is as well. And we can kind of talk through the different scenarios and clients that you're working with right now. We're always happy to work through that. It's the quirky stuff is out there, but the deals are also out there too. This is kind of fun. So if you've got clients that are nervous about interest rates, maybe we do an adjustable rate for a couple of years and then refine a little bit. I mean, there's options that are out there for people that are nervous. It's a great time to sell. There's a lot of equity still out there. It's just making sure that we get the right information, the right data in front of them, so that they're not seeing what the news is fear mongering, because the data is going to be more important and important for what they're working and what they're wanting to do. So good luck out there. It looks like we've had more open houses, I think, in the last week too. So keep us posted. If you guys need help with open houses, post them on our group page. I know that people are always looking for opportunities like that. If you're needing signage for those open houses, make sure you reach out to our marketing team early. It takes a couple of weeks for those things to turn, but it's certainly well worth the time and money that you do to do that. And then obviously call us if you have questions or concerns or issues that you're encountering this week. Candace and I are always happy to help. And Sam as well, if you've got an issue that you're having with a deal that's having issues with financing, that's why we have one of our preferred lenders here on the call, so that you guys have a resource there that was willing to help you guys. So good luck this week, and we'll catch you guys this next Monday, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, you guys.